All right, here we are.
Hey, what's up?
You've gone to this really low. Hey, what's up?
Hey.
Here we are.
Yeah, man. I'm trying to keep things diverse out here, man.
Yeah, I like it. Is that behind you? Is that a Marshmallow, the DJ hat?
Marshmallow, the DJ.
You know the DJ Marshmallow that wears a marshmallow head?
Oh, you mean the ghost right there?
Yeah. Oh, that's a ghost. Okay.
That's a McDonald's Halloween Happy Meal bucket.
Okay.
That's what that is.
Oh, you got.
I have like all of them. I'm a big McDonald's guy, as most people know.
Are you? What I thought you were. I thought of you as more of a Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, but what?
No. I mean, I like Chipotle. It's fine. Chick-fil-A is great, but I'm here for McDonald's. McDonald's is my family, and I'm not ashamed of it. I don't care. You can't have McDonald's every day, but you also can't drink vodka every day. So it's fine.
What's your frequency?
I'm definitely at McDonald's once a month-ish.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes twice if I'm traveling a lot. Like if I'm traveling, when I'm traveling overseas especially, I'm always going to treat myself to McDonald's at least one of the nights. I'm usually eating all the local cuisine and all that stuff, but then I'm like, I just want a cheeseburger.
Are you just curious to how they do it in a particular place?
They usually have like different sauces and stuff, but also it's like a taste of home, man.
So McDonald's.
Look, hey, Andy, I grew up in the Section 8 housing, man. Like these are restaurant deserts, these are grocery store deserts. But you know who always was reliable for us when we were kids? McDonald's. You had a clean place to go eat very cheaply. They had bathrooms, they had air conditioning, and later on they had Wi-Fi. Right? Like this is like the winning formula.
So McDonald's is a customer of Session M, and when we were working on the business, our CRO and CTO traveled there frequently, and they
Chicago, right?
To Chicago, but also like they have this global conference every year where they have all of the different menu items from all the different countries, and so you could go.
I didn't hear anything you just said because you're Mr. Pixeling right now. Just so you know.
How about now?
I can hear you, but you definitely look like Mr. Pixel. For everyone who doesn't understand what I'm talking about, Andy has the worst internet connection in the continental United States today. And he looks like a bunch of squares on my screen. You look like a Lego.
All right. We're going to have to do some heavy editing on the intro.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe we just let it go.
Yeah, no, we definitely can't let this one go. I just sat in silence for 45 seconds.
All right, yeah. We had Greg Raiten back on, who's a co-founder of the L Suite and TechGC and all the communities under it, and
huge friend of the podcast, of course.
Yeah, supporter, friend.
He's got an interesting story insofar as like building this brand that he now obviously owns and runs. It's just cool, man. Like I like the creativity of going in this direction, and he's fostering, I think, the community that he and his partners saw was maybe missing when they got started, and clearly now it's like a fundamental part to your practice and mine, right? Like this.
What I love about it, or what I love about what they're doing is. He and he says this in the conversation several different ways. Like they're not beholden to one model, right? Like let's make whatever works. Let's make whatever works for people, and let's evolve it over time, because we know the world is going to evolve, and therefore the community has to evolve. And so I love that they're not just like they're constantly sort of like what makes sense now for the
format. Community. Agility is one of the greatest strengths of a company of any kind. You lose that as you get bigger and you institutionalize. And I hope L Suite now holds on to that forever, because it is what makes them valuable to us and what allows them to change over time as conditions in the practice change. I think that's exactly right.
Yep.
And Andy's frozen again. Mr. Pixel.
Hey everyone, Chris here with the L Suite. We are excited to announce the L Suite's Legal AI Conference in San Francisco, June 20th. It's co-chaired by the CLO of Mozilla and GC of DeepMind, and featuring on the main stage the GC of OpenAI. It's a perfect time to bridge the AI gap from theory to practice, and L Suite conferences are the best at creating actionable strategies for the innovative legal leader. Learn more about the event and L Suite membership at lsuite.co.
Here we are. We did it.
What's up?
All right. Greg Raiten, co-founder of the L Suite. How are you? It's good to see you. It's been since 2021, the last time we had you on. Is that
wow
believable? Yeah, October. I wrote this down, October of 2021.
The endurance of this podcast, somehow it survives. I don't know how. It's like been running on fumes for 4 years, but we're still here somehow.
I thought you were going to call it a cockroach or something.
Yeah, it's like a cockroach. It's like you just keep stomping on it, but like those things just stays alive.
It's good, you guys. I love it.
Greg, what's happened between 21 and now? It's a huge question, but in the L Suite TechGC world, a lot has happened. So can you summarize kind of the big things?
Yeah, man, I can't even remember 2021 at this point. It seems like, back in the heyday of good valuations and money was flowing. Yeah, I guess a lot has happened. I mean, the community continues to grow. I think the big thing that's happened is we sort of rebranded everything under this L Suite brand. So I just, kind of brief history here. We started this community way back in 2015. It was called TechGC. It was really focused on venture-backed tech companies and venture funds, and really sort of like very curated in the tech ecosystem. As we ran it for a bunch of years, we started to grow outside of the tech ecosystem, outside of like venture-backed companies to venture funds, PE funds, stuff like that. So we kind of started to see that this idea of like the name, the brand TechGC didn't really make sense. It wasn't really inclusive of what, all the people in the community, but also, it was like, we're starting to see, and we can sort of talk about this, but like the way you grow a community in our mind is like really creating these curated sub communities that you're connecting people to their closest peers. So in order for us to do that, we needed sort of a different brand structure that allowed us to have parent brand and then kind of connecting people in different cohorts or different sub communities under that. So for us, that was forming this new brand called the L Suite, and then TechGC being one community under the L Suite, along with a couple other communities that we have for public companies, funds, deputy level, that type of thing.
We think that the L Suite brand needs a robe or smoking jacket as its swag element. I think you've got something there. I don't know if that's on the schedule or not.
like a suede robe.
Suede. Have you guys seen the Saturday Night Live where they have like people that have been hosted multiple times have a very special robe, and there's like a secret room where they pat each other on the back? I feel like there's a vibe there.
I love that. It's pretty awesome. It's funny. We hired like a branding company and sort of like went through this whole website rebrand and all that and figuring out the colors and all that. But it's like very much like what they pitched this as was quiet luxury.
Ooh.
Right? It should feel like when you go to the website, it should feel kind of like luxurious, sort of like a back room, like exclusive, but inviting. So I think a suede robe or something. Perfect.
Yeah, like smoky rooms and dark glasses. What is loud luxury? I'm just curious.
Loud luxury.
I think loud luxury is brand, like Valencia, like whatever. So it goes all over.
Everyone gets the swag. Everyone gets
like
a
Kanye
Lamborghini Murcielago. Like this would be loud luxury.
Right. Exactly.
So when did you guys start thinking about this? I don't know if the right word is branding evolution, but like structure evolution. When did you guys start thinking about it? And why is now the right time to make the shift?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I'll give you sort of a medium long answer here. So, I mean, really, we started thinking about this back in around 2018. When Kieran and I, like this started as a side project. Both Kieran and I were active GCs, and we were sort of doing this just on the side for fun. And when we started to see some growth, we came to this sort of like first real pivot point where it's like, hey, like if we really want to jump in here, like and grow something, we probably need to do this full time. And is there an opportunity to do that? Or is this really just something we keep doing on the side? And, it's a fun passion project. And we had a bunch of conversations around that time and just started thinking about like, all right, well, like, can this be a business? Can this be something that, generates enough money for us to pay ourselves a real salary? And, can we also grow it? And that's where we started just thinking about like, well, if we grew it, like, what does that look like? Does it, do we grow vertically within legal and just sort of own the entire legal stack from law schools to law firms and legal ops and everything in between? Or do we grow horizontally and sort of think of this as a C-suite community and add other C-suite functions like CFOs and whatnot? So we kind of started thinking about that way back when, and I can sort of talk about what decisions we made there, but we did very much think like at some point this could be broader than just what we have today, and we need to then come up with a structure. So the first decision we ended up making was launching a CFO community, and at that point, that was 2021. And at that point, we needed to think about like, all right, well, how do these two communities sit together? Are they, do we have like the marketers will call it, sort of, there's two approaches here, like a branded house or a house of brands. We had to get deep into all of this. Like, do we have two completely separate brands that don't talk to each other? Or do we have one brand that has sort of different flavors that make sense, that kind of relate? And that's where we created, at that point, the CFO community called the F-Suite. And at the same time, we changed our company name to the Suite. And then it became only a matter of time. We knew that we had to bring TechGC into this sort of this brand architecture. And we sort of punted that decision for a long time, sort of punted the execution on that for a long time. And then this was, it became the right time, I'd say. Really, we hired this branding agency. We started thinking about this in late 2023 and then implemented the change now. The community is just large enough at this point, and we were starting to see, like, this was something that we were operating this way on the back end anyway. So just high level, we've got 3 GC communities, funds, public companies, and private companies. We already divided this on the back end and started doing events for each of those. And this was kind of just formalizing that and really giving us a structure to grow.
When you think about horizontal growth, it makes total sense to me. Finance and legal, HR, people ops, that horizontal growth across the C-suite makes a lot of sense to me. When you run up into sales and marketing, that's an interesting dynamic because they have so many communities already. It's like the biggest, they're community rich, it's like they love it. So like, do you guys stop there at like the G&A functions, or do you think about other ways to horizontally grow? Product, engineering? I mean, it's, you can go a bunch of different directions potentially.
Yeah. I mean, we think about this a lot, and I think there's a couple variables that we think about, sort of like couple vectors as to what makes a good opportunity for another community. So CFOs was the obvious one for a whole bunch of reasons, like legal and finance are, in some ways, two sides of the same coin here. I think HR is another interesting one, but there actually are a few good HR people ops type communities. And, it's something we have thought a lot about and continue to debate, but it's not on our top list right now. But what I would say is there are, one element is like how crowded the space is. One element we think about is if you look at the ecosystem, like, do we still feel like our flavor of community, our approach is, sort of differentiated enough? And then the third element is our communities are sponsor supported. So we have 2 revenue models. We have membership fee, we have sponsorship fee. We do that for a number of reasons, but one of the main reasons we do that is we're able to really keep our membership fees lower than a lot of other communities. If you look at whether it's like YPO, which is 10, 15,000 plus a year, to some of these other CEO type communities, 10,000 plus a year, like that's I think a price point that's really hard for a lot of people to justify. So we're trying to keep prices low, and we do subsidize that with what we consider to be value add sponsors. And, it's our job to make sure we're weaving them in a way that's value add and not just too salesy. So I say that because we also look at the sponsor ecosystem and like which sort of C-suite categories might get interesting sponsors that want to get access to them. So I'll tell you the 2 that are most sort of top of mind for us right now are CTOs. I think there's a really interesting opportunity for CTOs. Underserved community could have a lot of impact to connect them to their peers. And then CEOs. CEOs is obviously not an underserved area. There's a ton of CEO communities. But I think when we look at that ecosystem, I think there's just an opportunity for our model that might create some value.
How do you guys look at the business in terms of metrics? Like, it's not, we're all used to kind of different metrics, looking at different kinds of business. Community business is unique, and you guys had to sort of create it.
Yeah. I mean, we look at it, I'd say in some ways it's similar to a lot of other tech companies, right? Like we think about growth, obviously think about growth. We think about net revenue retention and all of that type of stuff that I'd say a normal sort of SaaS or recurring revenue business would look at it. But we also, there's a couple differences here. Like one, we have raised no outside capital. That's been very intentional. I think there's, this idea of once you take venture money, obviously like you're on this high growth path. I mean, that's venture investors are investing for an outsized return and looking for, sort of hyper growth. And I think that is a really challenging path for communities. If you grow too fast or too big, it's really dilutive to the experience. And I think that's how a lot of other communities have fumbled in the past. So growth is something we look at, but it's not like the end goal. Growth, we want to grow in a measured, organic way, not in a hyper growth type way.
If you were going to take money, certainly doesn't fit like a venture model because of what you just said, Greg. The private equity models are like they want to put hundreds of millions of dollars to work. So is that if you were going to take money, what class of investor would you talk to, and have you thought about that and discussed it as a way to continue thinking about growth or other ways to grow?
Yeah. We have thought about it. I'd say certainly not the venture path for the reasons, I just said before. I do think private equity is an option in the future. I mean, there are, smaller private equity funds that are putting tens of millions versus hundreds of millions to work. But I would say for us, we really don't think about primary capital as something that we're looking for right now. It's just, it's a profitable business. I think there's a lot of like business reasons why I wouldn't want to raise tens of millions of dollars or anything in primary capital. Like I think that creates sort of an unhealthy dynamic that we've now got a lot of money on our balance sheet and we're trying to grow out of that versus growing in a sustained way out of profits. I think that's obviously like where the market has moved these days anyway, and all the venture investors are pushing their companies to be profitable and sustainable. So I think like, that's one reason. Like we don't need it today. I don't know what I would do with $10 million if I raised it. I don't think I would healthily spend that money.
The robe.
Fair enough. There we go.
So let me ask a kind of wacky question. So COVID played a role, I think, in people's interest in like online community and online, let's say like networking, connection, whatever. It was part of the reason we started this podcast. Like we were stuck in our house. We couldn't see our friends. So we did this thing. How has going into COVID affected the business, and how has coming out of COVID affected the business? Particularly since a lot of the events during at least the COVID period were obviously virtual, and now everyone is sort of shifting back to like in person. Like how did COVID affect this whole process of not just like growing the business, but also like transitioning into the bigger brand? Interested.
COVID affected us massively. I think, obviously like the big thing was, you say this, COVID, we went into COVID, it was Kieran and I, and we had two full-time employees. We had one, Chris, who you guys know well.
Yeah.
And we had just convinced this woman, Julienne, to join us full-time. She started March 1st, 2020 full-time. We pulled her out of this other company. And it was like, at the time we were a live events business. Like it was pretty, scary for a lot of reasons, but business wise, like that was a big transition. So I'd say the biggest thing for us immediately was how do we transition and start doing really like high quality virtual events, and like how do we provide value to both sides of the ecosystem? Like, webinars aren't new. People were doing webinars before, but like no one was excited really about webinars.
You don't wake up in the morning thrilled about webinars?
No. No one was excited. And webinars aren't like good for community. I mean, that's like you can sort of like watch.
It's the opposite. It's the opposite.
Yeah. So we had to think a lot about how do we do online events that create value. And I think we experimented with a whole bunch of different things. We did figure out some models there that worked really well. I also think COVID was an incredible bonding experience for people in a whole bunch of different ways. I think what we saw is that these communities, like general councils, were dealing with an enormous amount of like unprecedented issues that no one knew how to deal with. They were coming up in real time, whether it was PPP loans to health issues to return to office to, all that type of stuff. And having like a really tight knit community that you could go to was incredibly impactful. So it just sort of like in a lot of ways strengthened the community and people sort of seeing the value of that, which was a good sort of tailwind for us on terms of growth and just sort of like demonstrating the value of why you want to be part of one of these communities. But like where it's sort of affected us today still is, I think, virtual events. Before we went into COVID, virtual events were like a tiny, tiny part of our business. Now they're a large part. Like they stay a large part of the business. I think people like are happy to be on virtual events. A lot of people are not going into the office as much. A lot of people are not wanting to go out to dinners in the evenings. And, I think we have a model that works for a community to create virtual events that we're still seeing out of.
Yeah, there are a few things that I think I'm happy that are mostly gone, more than the business dinner. I'm just so happy that like the frequency of the business dinner for me has gone to almost zero, and I really like that. I really like that.
What's your lingering issue with the business dinner? I'm curious.
I don't want to talk about work at night. That's what it is. I mean, unless I'm at work, I think like there was this pressure to always be available, and then like job finishes at 5, go to the dinner with whoever's, or you're at the conference, spend all night eating with 15,000 different people. I find it to be exhausting. I think if you're an introvert, and I'm not that much of an introvert, I am like a hybrid-y type introvert. I think like if you are an introvert, this is hell for you. Like you spend your whole day at a conference, and then you got to go to the dinner and chew your food in front of a bunch of people. Like, I don't know, man. It's never been my favorite. Not to mention that, like, there's disadvantages for parents and people with disabilities and all things.
This is a good question for Greg, right? Early days, TechGC, the dinners are a big part of the offering. Started with a lunch, right? So, like, we are still doing those, but you guys have played around with, like, the type of dinner, the frequency, sponsor, no sponsor. What have you learned over the years around the business dinner? I think it's a good, interesting topic.
Yeah, we have played around with a lot of things, and I think there are a lot of people that are no longer interested in dinners. I don't know if they maybe were before and they're not anymore, but like it's maybe just more like acceptable or I don't know,
not show up
to not do it. And I think what I see largely is like it's mostly people that are like, it's mostly parents, I would say, like not just moms, like moms and dads are sort of, evening time is more family time. And a lot of people are not commuting into the office and then maybe don't live downtown. So therefore don't want to like just come in for a dinner. We're also just seeing shifting dynamics as to like where we're doing dinners. I mean, the big example is San Francisco versus the Peninsula. Like 100% of our dinners used to be in San Francisco. We did 0 on the Peninsula. And now it's shifted to 50-50 by member demand. And I'd say it probably should shift even more towards the Peninsula.
It's closer to people's house, man.
Yeah. I think we had the same discussion, the last board call about it with respect to Boston too. Like just all the points you made. Yeah. People are just outside of the city in a 20-minute radius usually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, the other interesting thing, like we continue to try to iterate on this and just think about it, is what's the right format for these dinners? Because I think, like you said, Pedro, like these are like what we find when we first started this. We started small, more like 10 to 15 people, and then we like went up to like more like 35-person dinners, and these were like CLE presentations by law firms, and those were okay for a little while, but then we saw like really like the value is much more in this, like I'd say between 8 and 15.
Totally agree with this.
That's like really curated. Like this is our goal. And this is like, we are not perfect at this yet by any means, but this is like what we focus on every day. Our entire team is focused on curating the experience of our members. So it's like when you go to a dinner, if you're at, whatever it is, a public company, like, a mid-cap public company, like you want to be with other companies around your size or maybe a little bit larger. Like if you're in a crypto company, you probably want to do something with a bunch of other crypto companies. Like whatever that curation might be, I think it depends And ideally we give you a variety. Maybe some are industry based, some are size based, some are just experience, right? Like other people that have been a GC for 15 years, whatever. But like, that's what's important, is getting you with, roughly eight to 10 other people in a room that are like you.
I really strongly agree with this. As far as like my own experiences and where I get value, like when I attend a large conference, it doesn't matter which one, IEPP, whatever. And, there's always all these dinners around the conferences sponsored by law firms and, service providers or whatever. You go to these dinners, there's 50 people in a big room at a loud restaurant. The sponsor, who's the one paying for the dinner, whether it's a law firm or whoever, makes some remarks, some little monologue up at the top. They have one or two reps there. I don't even get to talk to them, right? So the person who's paying for the dinner doesn't even get to talk to me, right? Whereas, and then you sit at a dinner with a bunch of strangers you've never met, hasn't been curated at all. Sometimes you have some things in common, sometimes you don't. More often than not, I would argue you don't have a lot in common. Like sitting me next to the Apple guy doesn't make a lot of sense at the conference dinner, And so that's just an example, but like, we're not going to be able to talk much because of our jobs. Right. And so, but these smaller ones that are curated and the sponsors sitting at the table just to eat with us, and we can talk about our job and about our work and about their business and about, whatever's on our minds, and actually have a meal together. Those are the dinners that I have found the most valuable. Now, I don't love late night for all the reasons we talked about.
Yeah.
I have seen a lot of breakfasts and lunches, and I think that is the play, because kids are at school and people are at work. Like this is the time to do these things.
Breakfast
so really love
breakfast is a great play, and it doesn't get played very very much, not often enough.
To me is the move.
Maybe we're just getting old.
Yeah, I'm old, man. I'm 43 years old, man. I want a nice hearty breakfast, and I'd love to share it with somebody.
Well, no, you guys, right on. Like we are doing breakfast now in our CFO community, and that's like, it's been hugely popular with CFOs. We haven't really done this with GCs, not for any particularly good reason. I mean, it's just the lunches and dinners are working, but we should probably bring it there. But CFOs love the breakfast.
Yeah, like high achievement people tend to wake up early, tend to be active early, and then tend to have busy afternoons and evenings, right? So like breakfast just feels right. Anyway, I also think breakfast tastes delicious and it's easy to offer to people.
and I think, look, you can occasionally, we made a lot of comments about parents, families, just free time. Like, it's a lot easier to walk in at 10 once a month
for sure
than it is to go off at 5.
Sure.
That's a much tougher ask.
Sure.
So what do you guys think of like the dinner that has a topic versus the dinner that doesn't have a topic? And I think this is an interesting dynamic. And one of the things, like, there's obviously like sponsorship woven in here, and what the if it's a law firm, for example, what the law firm wants. However, I've found a lot of value. There was a recent TechGC dinner maybe 6 months ago, no topic. It was sponsored by a law firm, Cooley, I think, and I just got to spend time with these lawyers from Cooley who I had met maybe once before and hadn't met a couple of them before, and just getting to know them, talking about their business, ours. Don't necessarily always need like, what's happening in Series B's lately? You don't have to have that always. It's helpful sometime. I mean, that's a mix, I guess, is what I guess I'm presuming.
Yeah, man, I completely agree with you. So like, this is where we experiment a lot with format. Like I said, like it started with like CLE presentations, like a law firm would get up there and present with a member or something. And then we transitioned to, a variety of things, but like we sort of moved to this fireside chat model for a while, where it would be a sponsor doing a fireside chat for 15 or 20 minutes with a member around some something, some transaction or some area, with the goal of like that being interesting, that could start some Q&A and then a discussion. I think those were interesting. We got some pretty good feedback from those, but we also still started seeing like you're saying, like sometimes like even that feels kind of formal. Like you're all sitting around and listening to someone talk for 15 minutes. So we're starting to do these discussion based or just like mind share type dinners that are more like what you're saying. Like there's a theme, like the theme, whatever. It might just be, hey, these are all people in, ad tech, or these are all people in crypto. Or it might be, hey, like we're, the theme for tonight is whatever, this new privacy rule or something like that. But it's like, there is no presentation, and it's just a matter of like, come with discussion, come and sort of discuss.
I like that format. a lot.
Yeah, we still like do a planning call with the law firm and whoever the GC host is, just to make sure that there is some like outline of things to talk about. Like some dinners just flow totally naturally and it goes where it goes. Like that's the ideal. But a lot of times, like you need that starter. Like you need some person to kind of kick it off. And
do you miss the practice of law at all, or do you, or are you just like, I'm good. I'm good.
I'm good.
Well said.
What don't you miss the most?
I mean, like, look, the easy one from like the law. I don't miss law firms at all. Like that, I was never wanting to make partner in a law firm. I think that it's a tough environment. I don't miss billing my time and increments and all of that, and just like being sort of outside the ecosystem, advising a ton of clients like that. I'm always sort of like been more of like a builder. Like I want to be in house and sort of building something that excites me. But I mean, besides that, I would say it's not so much that it's not so much that it's not that I didn't like it. I think like being a general counsel I actually started to find pretty satisfying later in my career. And the reason being that I think at some point, you start getting kind of good at what you're doing, or like you start feeling like, all right, I actually have some knowledge here and this is interesting. And people are coming to me with like difficult challenges and I'm like integrated and I'm sort of like a specialist that has a skill that is needed. And I think that, it took me a while to get to that point in my career, candidly, but when I sort of got there, like, yeah, I thought that was satisfying. What I say is like more satisfying to me is like that builder mentality. Like I really like being involved in like creating something and the strategy behind that, the all of the testing and processes that go with that. It's not that you don't necessarily get that as a lawyer. I think you're a part of it, but like you're like a part of it. You're sort of, part of a team. Like you're not building it and sort of like and releasing it. And I just think that to me is like the entrepreneurial spirit. Like I was a CS major in undergrad. Like that was something I always loved about programming. It's like you create a piece of code and it does something at the end. And like, that's just very satisfying.
That's not what happens in law firms.
Yeah, that's not. What was your vision like when you were coming out of law school for your career? I don't think you envisioned this. So like, what were you like, all right, here's what I'm going to set out to do here.
I talk to so many lawyers these days about career paths and stuff like that. And I was just finding like, there are the people that go to law school and like know that they want to be a lawyer. It's like, it makes a lot of sense. You want to be a lawyer, whether that's like, I want to do public policy work or whatever it is, or I want to be a tech lawyer. I was certainly not one of those people. Like I was a CS major. I was sort of like, I knew like I wanted to go to grad school. I just sort of like felt like I wanted to do some sort of postgraduate degree. And I was debating like getting a master's in CS. I pretty quickly ruled that out. I was not a very good programmer. So then it was like, all right, do I want to get a JD or an MBA? And I kind of always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always thought like I wanted to do this. And I just like thought a lot like, as I talked to a bunch of people, just like an MBA, I felt like just didn't open any doors. Like you can, if you want to be an MD at a bank, yeah, you probably need to get an MBA, right? Like there's a few paths where like you kind of need that, but like those weren't what I wanted. And I kind of just wanted to be more on, the business, sort of small business entrepreneurial side. And I was like, all right, a JD kind of opens a lot of doors. Like I could be a lawyer if I like that and like I have this degree, or I could kind of go into business in some way, right? Like you look at a lot of lawyers that have that. So I always kind of like went to law school with that idea of like, at some point I want to quote, jump to the business side. I didn't know what that really meant or what that path would be, but I did, I made a couple, I'd say like intentional decisions coming out of school. Like I knew I only wanted to do transactional. Like I was going to go to a law firm and I only wanted to do transactional corporate work. I did not ever consider litigation. And like, I really thought about like what type of work would set me up best to go in-house one day. So sort of did like M&A work in early part of my career and then moved to Gunderson and just really like worked with startups and venture funds. Like that was always my goal, was to try to get to like that startup side and then jump in-house. I never knew where it would lead, but I did know I didn't want to like make partner in a firm.
Do you guys think that law firm fees I was texting with somebody about this today. A friend of mine just got an engagement letter from a firm and was like, holy moly. Look, like she hadn't looked at the fees in a while. Like, is this just like inflation normal, or am I wrong that law firm fees have hit a different stratosphere and I don't know. Like, I feel like there's got to be some pressure put on this at some point.
I can give you some real big anecdote here, because I have a few folks on my team that are going on long leaves, some maternity leave and some recharges and some stuff. So I need to backfill these folks temporarily for, about 6-month windows.
Oh my gosh.
And so I'm hiring secondees, right? This is fine. I'm going to give you some averages here, and these are rough off the top of my head. I've met with a few firms. Roughly, of the AmLaw 100 firms, secondee on a monthly fee basis is coming in at about just under $100,000 a month. A month. A month. A month. This is insane. You know how much, when I was a secondee back in the 1700s, do you know how much the company paid for my secondment? $25,000 a month. And I was a 7th-year associate coming in after having worked at the Justice Department and having had a career before law. That's how much they were paying. So
my last company's rent in Boston for our last office was $90,000 a month. That's rent, office rent. So you're telling me this lawyer is worth more than my office?
A junior associate. A junior associate. I mean, if you just do the numbers, right, and you like they're billing them basically out of really senior partner hourly rate, which doesn't make any sense to me. My feedback to the firms was, guys, I know lawyers don't do math, but I do math. Okay. I can crank the numbers here, and I'm paying for this person what I would pay for you, partner. Are you crazy? Like, what is happening here?
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think your point is, yes, the fees are higher than I've ever seen them. I'm not looking at like hourly billing rates as much as, because I have some sort of like all-in packages with the firms I work with as far as like counseling, but the secondment stuff has shocked me. I just like, this is wild. Now, there are some other providers out there like the Axioms of the world and some others that sort of like have a different business model, so the fees are significantly lower. I'm guessing that's why their business is booming, but I don't know.
Is business booming?
Yeah.
I mean, Greg, you're probably in a pretty good position to think about this. Is business booming for law firms? Like, feels like it's hard to know.
Well, so I would say, I mean, the law firms I talk to, there's been a long period of slowdown, like massive slowdown, I'd say, across a number of firms. I think like, the huge firms that are like super well diversified and whatever have the bankruptcy practices or whatever are staying afloat. But like, yeah, I think there's been a big slowdown there. But I would say, I mean, just to Pedro's point, like there are a number of these like Axiom or whatever, Flex by Fenwick or Law Trades or Priori, like a number of these types of more like staffing type models or outside sort of GC support type models. And those seem to be booming. I do think there's a lot of value in that. And look, I mean, probably partly because of prices of firms and like people need alternate models. I mean, law firm partner prices are astronomical. What I think is interesting though is like what bothers me more is I'd say junior and mid-level associate hourly rates. Like for me to pay whatever it is, $500, $600, $700 for like a junior mid-level associate is kind of crazy. Like that person is, like really not, like that person has got skills and doing stuff, but like a lot of like what that is, I'd say a lot of this will hopefully be eaten by AI and other sort of like software tools. But like what I find like I'm more willing to pay that astronomical partner rate when things are like really hitting the fan, right? Like when there's like that the company thing, or if it's not even like that company, but like I really need someone's unique expertise in some area, like I'm happy to pay for that. And I think like that is a lot of value. So I don't know. I wonder what happens to law firms, because I do think like these junior mid-level associates and the rates that they are charging them out make no sense in this world where we now have like technology that can sort of do a lot of this stuff. Yeah. But I think like it's going to segment where there is a lot of value for that upper partner with a real interesting experience.
I do think, maybe I'm wrong, but my perception is that a lot of, big traditional law firms just sort of want to hold on to the buildings and the prestige and the whatever, all that other stuff. And like, I mean, look, I work barefoot every day in my basement, right? This is how I work every day. Right. And so why do you have the ivory tower? I'm like, why do we need that? Why do I need to live in the knowledge that I'm like subsidizing that through like exorbitant fee arrangements? What I have seen in the last 3 to 4 years amongst my peers I don't mean just within Meta. I mean just across the industry where I talk to folks that hire and use external advisors and lawyers, is this massive move towards smaller law firms where a partner has broken off from somewhere big. The fees are half the fee, but you've got 100% of the expertise, and that partner does not have that former partner, but super expert doesn't have the overhead. Like, and then so the fee is half. Like, I see that everywhere. I see like Phil when he left Field Fisher is a great example of this, Andy. Like, he left the firm, took a break, started his own shop, and now he's got so many clients. He's like on a hiring spree.
There's
but
a bunch.
He hasn't built a massive overhead machine. He's built a economical, highly expert, high expertise machine, and that's what I think all of us want to shop for when we're looking for legal services.
Yeah. What do you? But like, I'm curious, Pedro. Like, you're at a company like Meta. I mean, there's that old adage, like, no one gets fired for hiring IBM or whatever. Like, sometimes just like want the name of a firm.
Of course, look, I think in the area of litigation, hiring a large known brand firm with deep expertise in the area in which you're litigating is the way to go for any big Fortune 500 company, because you have to look at a board and you have to say, we did everything we could. So like, we hired firm X because firm X has handled this type of litigation successfully 10,000 times. Doesn't matter what it costs because the stakes are high. For all the other legal work though, right? All the other stuff, which is a lot of expense and a lot of work, I don't think that you need that. I just don't. I actually think it's wrong to go hire the big fancy. I think the best thing to do is shop around, find the best expert for the best price and hire that person. Which is often not the big firm. It's often like a Phil Lee type of profile, right? Where it just used to be really, really big firm person, and now I got my own shop and we're rocking.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like there are certain things, whether it's litigation or whatever, regulatory work, or when I was for fun, like our fund formation work or something, right? Like, we're negotiating with LPs. Like, you want that brand name that's going to be, if it said something and like, that's creating that, that value. But like, for a lot of other stuff, like your mostly day-to-day stuff, like you want someone who's cost effective and
smart,
so
available.
True. This is so true in the people ops side of the world and the IP side of the world. There's just a lot of places you can find amazing lawyers for a third of the cost. But you guys are absolutely right. I mean, there are times when you either like a particular person and they happen to be at a place that is a little more expensive and you decide to pay for that.
Yep. Or you just sort of have to pay them premium price because you have a premium problem.
Yeah.
you got to do what you got to do. You're in premium trouble or whatever it is. Right?
Before we let Greg go, I just want to ask the pizza question. I just want to know, you live in Brooklyn now?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So lots of good pizza options in Brooklyn. I forget where you grew up. I know you went to Hopkins in Baltimore, where I grew up. So I'm curious, where's the top spot? Has it changed over time? You got to have an opinion here.
I mean, there are wrong. I think, look, I live in Park Slope. I'd say the closest, like, really good one that I love is Lucali in Carroll Gardens.
The line is so long.
The line is crazy. I have it's like great. The line, it's crazy, but it is fantastic. I mean, DeFaro, like, love it. Like, some of the old classics, I don't know, you can't go wrong with that. And then there's all sorts of new pop-ups.
I love a good classic slice, New York slice. I don't think anything beats that, man. That's the best. What's inflation doing to a New York slice right now? Because I remember it was $2.50. What is it now?
That's a good question. I haven't gotten one in a while. I don't know.
Andy, what's a Boston slice cost these days?
I don't really get slices around here. We order from the delivery.
Rules.
I think the last time I had a slice was in New York.
Yeah, same here. I think I'm trying to remember. I went to Prince Street Pizza, which is an all-time favorite of mine. They got the square situation, and I think a slice. I don't want to. I feel like I spent $10 on a slice. I might be wrong, but like, this is where I think we are now. $10 slices of pizza, which is crazy.
Crazy.
Maybe it's worth
more
it.
Inflation than law firm fees.
Yeah, well, to finish on the dinners, nothing is better than an afternoon pizza party. Do you remember this from school? Like on the last day of school, having the afternoon pizza party with the Little Caesars, that only children eat because it's poison and it kills adults.
Dude, you're describing literally every weekend of my life with like it is like my weekends now are filled with all of their sports activities and like 17 birthdays every weekend.
17 birthdays, and they all are pizza parties. I love a good pizza party. So like, if TechGC wants to plan a pizza party, I don't care if you do it
not
at
a bad
midnight.
idea. That's not a
You
bad
plan
idea.
pizza party. I don't care if you do it at midnight on a Monday night. I will be there.
So before we go, we did just a privacy community in Boston and a couple law firms and a privacy consulting company. We did a pizza party at a bowling alley. It was awesome. Everybody loved it.
Nice.
So just saying.
It's pretty cool. It's a good throwback. I mean, it's like, especially for,
Love it.
All right, Greg. Thanks for hanging out.
And thanks for your support of our podcast, of course, which we really appreciate.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.